So today I placed 4th place in the PPG's $2,200 game event. This is the largest event that Digimon in English has received so far, and we managed to get top 4 using this deck. This is the same deck that I have in my budget series, so definitely check that out if you want to watch the evolution of the whole deck and how I've gotten to this point. We've got this whole deck for $20 a week for the past 7 weeks so far now. And yeah, just absolutely mind-blowing that we top an event using basically a budget deck. Yeah, we've got some lucky pulls and we'll show those, but wow, so cool. So let's get into this. You'll probably be looking at the Saber Leomon just thinking, what in the world? And spoiler, regular Leomon is in this deck as well. Yeah, so it's not your complete stereotypical cookie cutter Omnimon blue deck. Gonna be pretty interesting. Alright, so starting out, we're playing your standard Upamon. Right now, it's the best card in blue. Just that draw power is so important, especially early on. So we've got to maximize on 4 of these because we definitely need it going right out the gate to start getting draws immediately and getting more and more advantage as fast as possible. But I do go ahead and run a 5th. I switched it up to the Wanyemon finally. Never came up the whole event. Not that great, but mainly I really feel like 5 eggs is super crucial because getting that just Digivolve for a free evolution cost as well as a free draw for Digivolving on top of it, I feel like 5 is so needed. Now you're not always going to go through 5 eggs in a game, but it comes up fairly often, and I just like having that 5th one. Not necessarily, I would say more times than not is 4 is enough, but there are games where the 5th does come into play, so I like to have it. But 4 of the Upamons guarantees that I'm going to get some Upamons in a game, mostly Upamons. Next, going into the rookies, we've got the 4 Gabumon, sorry. This is the on-play draw 1. Just such a great blue card. I think this is this and Upamon is what really helps set blue above red in the Omnimon Turbo decks, just because blue has so much more draw power, especially early on, dropping rookies or attacking with most of your eggs. That's going to give you more draws. You just get so much more advantage early on with blue that I feel like that's why they can blow out red as well as they do. Even though red has, you know, the better option removal card, it's just better to go with consistency, I would say, over power every once in a while. Next up, we're playing, of course, the 4 Gomamon. While cards like Gabumon may come in and out, I've noticed that Gomamon, even in Japan, it stays true. This is the on deletion gain 1 memory. The memory game was so crucial. This whole event, it was all about the memory game of going back and forth with your opponent. Cards like Gomamon is just almost a blowout, especially, you know, when they're just getting in the groove and they're going through their plays and they just on their bad, they delete something and you gain 1 memory. Sometimes it'll pass the turn. Sometimes it just sets them up in a little more awkward situation. Even when they do see it coming, sometimes they just got to hit it regardless, and it can put them in a really bad bind. And it's just a great card. The memory efficiency of this deck is just phenomenal. Next up, we've got our vanillas here. I've got the 2 Gomamons and the 4 Electmons. There for a while, I was thinking just 3 and 3 was pretty good to kind of help even out. Mainly the only time it ever comes into play is when you're going against another Omnimon player, and if they ever drop an Omnimon and they declare Gomamon, you got 4 others as well with this one, so that puts you at 6 in total. So I didn't want to have 7. I know it's not that big a difference, so I upped the Electmon to 4, just so that way we could cut down on the Gomamons just a little bit, and that's really it. It's not that big a deal. It's not going to be game changing on those ratios overall, I don't think. Next up is our champions. It's Omnimon Blue. It's essentially a Omnimon Blue turbo deck with some other crazy spiciness to it. But when you're playing this deck, you have to run the Gorillamon. One thing that people don't really kind of consider, well, some people do, but not all, is that when you go first and you digivolve in the raising area for your rookie and you get a drop Gorillamon to pass turn, on that first turn, only giving them 1 memory is just such a awesome play. I love doing it. That's my favorite opening play there, is just to play that Gorillamon, giving them 1. Because if you play any of your other level 4s that give them 2 memory, it instantly just changes the whole dynamic. That gives them more than likely 3 evolutions that they get to work with. A rookie, a champion, and then probably either another rookie on field. It just gives them so many more plays that they get to do, so much more draw power. They can go into an ultimate for sure, and you know, that's 2 draws that they're, or you know, however, 3 draws that they're getting over you. I mean, it's ridiculous. So being able to drop that Gorillamon is so crucial. Next up, of course, we're playing the 4 blockers. I know some people only play 3 blockers, and I just feel like that's complete blasphemous. So many times, so many games where just having a blocker on field just put the whole opponent in check. They wanted to just, especially purple, they always want to crash with their rookies into security, stuff like Tapirmon, and just all those. They're always wanting to crash, and just being able to put them in check with the Grizzlymon, because that means they're not getting the draw advantage off the Tapirmon, as well as a security check. They're only going to get the 1, and at that point they're not willing to risk it. So always making sure I can get a Grizzlymon on field as fast as possible is super important. So as a 4 of, I feel like it's pretty much mandatory. So next up, it gets kind of interesting. I've only got the 1 Garurumon in this deck. Now there's a couple reasons for that. One is I'm only running the 1 Metal Garurumon in this deck. Now, if I'm only running 1 of this, I do not see, there's no reason to maximize on this card at all. I'm never going to get that on play effect. It's almost never going to happen. So instead, I'm running the 2 Leomons, because this combination is nice when it happens, but with only the 1 here, I'm not relying on this effect that often with the Garurumon. So cutting it back, I did have 2 more, cutting it down to 1 and replacing those 2 I cut with the Leomons. These Leomons put in so much work. I mean, a significant amount of work. Out of all the tech options I played this whole weekend, these just 2 lonely Leomons by far blew out my whole competition. Just being able to crash with it all the time, getting that gain 2 memory, or if I had a Gomamon underneath it as a Digivolution sources, I got in 3 memory. Just digivolving it for 2 and getting that draw factor, crashing it. It dies, I check a security, I gain that 2 memory back, so I'm back to where I started, as well as got a free security check out of it, and a draw. It just generated so much advantage. My opponent never even wanted to kill it when it was an easy target just to run over, because that gain 2 memory just always just scared them. Like I said, this whole weekend was all about the memory game and being as efficient as possible, and just going through and making sure you used every bit of memory you had. And I gained so much memory this weekend just off of these 2 cards. It was phenomenal. It was a great tech option over this combination. I definitely would recommend it, especially going forward. I like this play, but it's so seldom that I get to actually get this whole combination off. The Metal Garurumon with the Garurumon, and getting 2 swings out of this, or heaven forbid you have the whole lineup with the Were-Garurumon and the Gabumon, just getting, you know, the swing a second time for 2 security, so 4 security and a draw. That combination just almost never happens. So I just would rather, having more tech options just seem to really benefit over playing that. All right, next up is our ultimates. So first up, we're playing the Draw 2 Zudomon. Honestly, this card, I have a love-hate relationship with this card. It's so difficult for me to warrant playing that 7 cost, especially if I'm at, you know, something low like 1 or 2, because everyone's always playing that memory game with you of only getting you at 1 or 2, especially knowing that you're playing blue Omnimon. They don't want to give you too much memory because you can just go off. I mean, you can go full Omnimon with very little memory, and there's nothing they can do about it. So they never want to give you much memory, so you always have to play this and give them an absurd amount of memory. And again, if you're playing against the mirror match, it feels bad playing this. That draw 2 is nice, but I don't know. It has its advantages, especially if they do big plays on you, and then you get to play something like this against a Mega Zoo deck. That would be pretty nice. That I would not feel so bad about playing it then. But at least the inheritable is super good. Just being able to get that gain 1 memory, and it's not once per turn. So there's at one point where I actually got multiple uses out of this when attacking with my Omnimon. I attacked twice. I got 2 memory because of Zudomon. His isn't once per turn like so many others is, so that's pretty awesome. Next up, we're playing the pretty standard. We got the 3 Wergurumon. This is pretty much all the same that you see pretty often. I did see a few players running the promo one where if you have 8 cards in hand, you get the +1 security attack. And honestly, at first, I didn't really like that one all that much, but I really kind of grew to love it because by the time you get to being able to attack with this inheritable, so you're on a 6 or even a 7, you're probably in a later stage of the game, and in the later stages of the game, you just have just an absolute mountain of cards in your hand by mid, especially late game. So that kind of definitely saw its use way more than my poor security attack, only if they didn't have an inheritable, which, I mean, it does come up as well, but I feel like that other one almost could come up more often than this one. It's something you can't really predict, unfortunately, on which of the two is going to be the better for whichever game you're in. Next up, we're keeping it pretty cookie cutter here. We're playing the 4 Monzemon. This is just a phenomenal card. Level 5, that 5 drop is actually not that bad. For a level 5, drop this almost turn 1 or turn 2 with a little bit of memory, and then next turn, you're already up into a Plesiomon. Swing with that, and then more than likely drop an Omnimon pretty easily on top of that. Zudomon, great card, great level 5. That 2 cost evolution is the main reason we play it, but that 5 play cost is not anything to kind of laugh at. The 6,000 DP is kind of a shame because you can't swing over blockers with this. So if you ever just need to attack with a Monzemon and they have a blocker on field, you're kind of stuck, sadly. Next up, we have the 4 Plesiomon. Again, great card. For a level 6, only 2 evolution is just so great. It is a vanilla, but 12k is totally fine. The only time I don't like the 12k is when I go against red Omnimon, because not only do they have the 4 Omnimons that you have to worry about in security, they also have the 4 Phoenixmon in security you have to worry about, as well as they have the 4 Gaia Force. So that's 12 targets that you could hit in security and lose your Plesiomon. Whereas if you go against blue, you only got to worry about 8. So, because more than often, no one's playing Kikaitis Breath. Very few people are. So it's not really something you have to worry about. And sadly, that's a thing that you should worry about. And I'll get to that as well. But yeah, 2 cost evolution for a 6, just so good. Vanillas are kind of busted in this game, honestly. They kind of make things easy mode. Now, granted, with sets 4 and 5 coming out, I think vanillas are going to kind of go the way of the buffalo, and because some of these effects are just so good on so many cards coming out that I would rather pay a little bit more to get an outstanding effect than play a vanilla and not. So just so much more advantage on all these new cards. But until then, we're playing the vanillas. Next up is the Metal Grumon that I already showed earlier. We already kind of went over it. It's pretty good when you can get the combination off, but that 11k hurts, actually. So many times I would just love to run over like another vanilla on field or something like that, and I can't because I can't get it beefy enough. Red doesn't have this problem with their stuff because they have so many like 1000 DP buffs that they can usually amp their stuff up enough to run over things. But again, they don't have the consistency that blue has, so that's why we play blue, is just for that consistency buff. Next up is the Saber Leomon. So some of you are probably here just to hear why I played Saber Leomon instead of another Metal Garurumon. First of all, I only have the one Metal Garurumon. If you follow the series, and I do $20 a week on packs, and I've only ever gotten the one off of... and it wasn't even from one of my own packs. I had to get 6 wins in a row for a trade, and that's how I got it. So yeah, I had to go undefeated 6 games, and I got that trade for that Metal Garurumon, and that's it. So the Saber Leomon, right? Only 10k for level 6. That feels bad. I mean, that's worse than the Metal Garurumon, and for the same evolution cost. The on play, I swear you'll never play that. If you do, you're probably going to lose anyway because you're so desperate. But the when Digivolving effect, trash 4 Digivolution cards under one of your opponent's Digimon. So I started originally playing this because I had the option between this and Metal Seadramon. Ultimately, I went with this, though, to trigger Upamon, honestly. This guaranteed that I could pretty much always trigger Upamon's effect. If I Digivolved this and swung, then I would get my Upamon effect and draw. That's always great. Usually if I'm playing this guy and I'm not doing the Plessy, that means that I don't have an Omnimon in hand and I'm trying to draw into one, and this really kind of helps with that. But purple is kind of really picking up steam lately here. It actually took first place in the event, and a lot of them are playing these kind of Millenniummon turbo decks and Beelzemon and that sort of stuff. So being able to play this guy and get rid of all those Digivolution sources, and then the Millenniummon can't do its comeback ability. So then you can drop Omnimon on top of this guy and get rid of the Millenniummon, and that's it. You're done. You don't have to worry about it. It can't come back because he got rid of all the Digivolution sources on that Millenniummon. So pretty cool tech card. It only ever came up one time during the whole event where I actually got to use him, and I still think I ended up losing anyway that game, but it definitely wasn't his fault. I think it was just a bricky hand, and the opponent I was playing was really good. So yeah, that's the reason for playing the Saber Leomon. Just an interesting tech option over the Metal Garurumon, just because that Metal Garurumon, there's so seldom chances that you actually get to attack with it. So why not play something that I can get a little bit more value whenever I Digivolve it, because it's ultimately just a stepping stone to get into Omnimon. So just like Plesiomon, I'm not relying on Plesiomon to win me games. It's ultimately just a stepping stone to get to Omnimon. So I like the when Digivolved effect of the Saber Leomon. Next up is the Omnimon himself. I've only got the 3 copies, and you know what? The 3 copies really worked. It doesn't overclog my hand at all. There were games where I had 2 Omnimons in hand, and I couldn't play them because I couldn't get into other more valuable cards. So if I play 4, I feel like I would have clogged a whole lot more. But when this thing is in security, and it does its job, you know, it clears out whatever hits into it, but at the same time, once I see it come out of security, that's 1 less in my deck. That means I'm trying to draw into only 2 copies throughout my entire deck. And at that point, that just sends up a flag to me to switch gears and go into something else. We all know what Omnimon does, so it's no surprise that it's the main focus of the deck. Or it's our win condition, I guess. We can win without it. I did win several games without Omnimon. It just makes winning so much easier overall, especially with blue, because like I said, blue doesn't have the good removal effects like Gaia Force, or even things like Trump Sword, or I forget what greens is, but greens does it to tapped or suspended instead of the Trump Sword unsuspended. So we need all the extra removal we can. Next up is the best, kind of the best option in the whole game, even over Gaia Force. Which is another reason that blue shines out ahead over red for right now, is because of Hammer Spark. Hammer Spark is so good. Hit it in security, I would say 9 times out of 10, if they hit it in security, they're passing the turn back to me, and it's my turn again because they're hitting this in security. So great for that. As well as, there's so many times where you just play 1 Hammer Spark, you get a whole extra memory to Digivolve into something, and then you get a swing with whatever you Digivolved into, or just use that as a stepping stone, like play a Plesiomon for 2, and then you're at 0, and then you get to play that super much needed Omnimon. So instead of passing your turn, you're able to still get that Omnimon off, especially because, you know, they're playing that memory game with you. They're only going to try to leave you at 1, maybe 2, and Hammer Spark comes in so clutch for when they do that kind of craziness shenanigans on you, especially if you're not playing, you know, the memory efficiency tamers that put you at 3, which warning, I do not. So mainly because I've already got the Hammer Sparks, so I'm not too worried. If I need that extra memory, I can get it with the Hammer Spark when I need it. All right, next up, so last is our 4 final tech options. The core of the deck is done, all the blue shenanigans and everything like that, pretty much done. Next up is our tech options, which this can get super fluid. You can play what you feel you need to, what's in your locals, or what you feel you're going to come across a lot of. If you're going against Rookie Rush, you've got your Volcanic Dramon if you're worried about it. I wasn't really worried about Rookie Rush so much anymore. I think Rookie Rush is finally going away, and we don't really see it anymore. But the fact that I can drop this guy and I can go with Omnimon on top of it, that's why I play 2 of it rather than 2 of something else. Because next up we have the Puppetmon. I could run 2 Puppetmon and 1 Volcanic. Problem is I can't Digivolve Omni on top of Puppetmon, and that's pretty much the whole reason between this ratio here. I will say though, Puppetmon has put in more work for me than Volcanic. Volcanic terrifies the opponent because they know what's coming after that. If they leave it on field, they know full well that Omnimon is about to follow this guy next turn. So that always rushes them to try their best to destroy this one. But Puppetmon saves me games. It wins me games so much more than Volcanic does. That's for sure. Just being able to suspend whatever they have and then leave their whole field suspended just wins games. It wins games for sure. Puts you in such a better position. And I wish I could play it differently, but as of now, this is the way it's got to be. The last tech option, I could drop this for another Puppetmon, but wow, every time I debate dropping this card, it just comes in clutch and wins me. The reason I made top cut is literally because of this card. It hit so many times in so many perfect situations. I don't know how many games I won today because of this single card. And you're going to kind of probably laugh when you see it. Cicadas Breath. I literally hate this card. Literally hate this card. And I can never cut it because every time I go to cut it, it just does phenomenal for me, and literally won me, top 4 of this tournament because of this card. Hitting it in security, they hit it with a rookie first turn, and I bounced a Plessimon to hand that they were about to drop an Omnimon with, and after that, they could not come back for the whole. I had complete control for the entire rest of that game, just because of that single Cicadas Breath on the Plessimon. One game, wow, it was crazy. I had to Cicadas Breath a Puppetmon. I Cicadas Breath. You know how deadly that is? But literally it was that or I was going to lose. So bounce the Puppetmon to hand, and they played it again. Of course they did, because they were in a bad position. So they played it again on me. But after that, I was just able to, because that's 7 versus 11 there. They gave me so much more memory to come back and work with. So I was just able to push for game after working with all that memory, just because of a Cicadas Breath, bouncing it back to hand and resetting them to force them to play it a second time. Because it's too good of a card not to play again, especially when you saw how well it worked before. Playing it again, it's almost like a trap in that sense, because they feel obligated to play it again because it works so well. But giving me all that memory, that's a bad call. So, and like I said, 7 versus 11 there, that's a good trade-off for sure. So sadly, still can't justify cutting Cicadas Breath just because it works so well. But that's the deck. If you guys want to leave any comments, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. If you want to call me a lunatic for playing a couple of cards I did, I certainly understand where you are coming from. I didn't want to play some of those cards. I was forced to, and wow, was I so glad that I did. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and comment, as well as subscribe if you haven't already. If you enjoy this type of content, I try to put it out as much as possible, so definitely subscribe. Also, if you really enjoyed the content, check out my Patreon. I have a link in the description below for it. You can get access to my Discord server, as well as if you're a Dragon Village M fan, account takeovers where I help you out with your account. If you're a Digimon fan, I've got monthly giveaway, well, not even giveaways, I've got monthly merch that's specific to Patreon. Stuff like memory counters, custom made. This is the baby form of Vmon here. There's gonna be more in the works also, so lots of memory counters, all kinds of awesome Digimon merch. So definitely check out that tier, and if you're just all out crazy, there's other tiers if you're that dedicated. As well as check out my Teespring. I've got awesome merch there, you know, official Battle Ready Ink merch, awesome phone cases for you Digimon fans out there. They've got them for iPhones as well as Samsungs. So they are super sweet. If you've seen the last Digimon movie, that's where these are from. I had a friend of mine custom make these so that way they fit perfectly on these phone cases. They look super good, so definitely check those out. But at the end of the day, if you can't do any of that, just like I said, like the video, that helps a ton, and subscribe. It doesn't hurt, but it helps me. So that's what's the real benefit. And as always, I'll see you next time.